Is there a God? Is there any evidence that there is a God? Or is God just a pious myth that makes us feel better, a coping mechanism for life? Now, it's sometimes thought that modern science has replaced our need for God. But I'm going to suggest to you that modern science doesn't really have that ability to replace our need for God or to replace the idea of the existence of God. And if you go back to the founders of the scientific revolution in the 16th and 17th and 18th centuries, almost all of those people had deep faith. So they were coming up with revolutionary ideas when it came to science. They were helping us understand the mechanics of how the world works. And everything we do in modern science today is built upon the foundation that they laid, and yet almost all of them were people of deep faith. I think about Copernicus, who was a Catholic priest. Galileo, despite the great conflict between him and the church's tragic misunderstanding of whether the world revolved around the sun or the sun revolved around the world, despite the way that the church acted in that, he still was a person most people believe of faith. Kepler saw his work in science as a calling from God. Robert Boyle, who was the great pioneer in chemistry, saw his work as an expression of his Anglican faith. Francis Bacon, one of the fathers of the scientific method, had a deep faith in Christ. Descartes, like Galileo, had a sometimes rocky relationship with the church, but despite that, he used his powers of reason to also make the case for why there was a God. Pascal was not only a scientist, but a theologian, and Sir Isaac Newton penned more words about theology than he penned about science. These were all people who believed that science did not discredit the idea of God, but instead often these were two different ways of thinking about and understanding knowledge and existence and the universe. Right? And they were both really important. They were not inconsistent with one another. So when I think about God and why I believe in God, I can't prove that God exists to anybody. It's above my pay grade. What I can say is these are the reasons why I, a reasonably intelligent person who's thought a lot about this, has come to conclude and choose to believe that there is a God. So I'm going to offer you just three responses to that question. I could spend an hour talking you through 10 or 12 or 15. I'm going to give you three. The first one is simply this: the beauty and rational order of creation leads me to conclude that there is an intelligence, there is a God, there is an artist behind everything that exists. This is what almost all human beings throughout human history have believed. They thought that the greatest proof of God's existence was existence itself. It was the universe, the cosmos. It was our own flesh and blood. It was what we see around us, the beauty and the order of creation, all pointed towards a creator. So, today we know far more than anyone in the biblical period of time knew about how the universe works. Does that discredit the idea of God, or does that actually enhance God's glory and lead us to an even greater sense of wonder that there must be something behind all that is? So I think about the Hubble Deep Space Field, and you've seen this picture before, showing galaxy after galaxy. Now that image is like if you held up a postage stamp at arm's length, and that amount of a postage stamp, you train your gaze on that. This is what you would see if you were the Hubble telescope. You're looking at that much of space as we would see it from here on Earth. It's completely dark the way you would look at it, but here, this is what you find. All of those are galaxies, like our Milky Way galaxy. Our Milky Way galaxy, you talk about, and actually all of those galaxies, you're talking about hundreds of millions of stars, maybe billions of stars in these galaxies, hundreds of billions of stars in many cases. And in the case of our Milky Way galaxy, maybe as many as 400 billion stars like our sun, just in our galactic neighborhood alone. And you look at the order of this and how the cosmos work and the laws that govern all of this. And as you do that, you find yourself feeling what the psalmist was feeling. The psalmist didn't have access to telescopes. They just looked up at the heavens, and this is what they said: "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the works of his hands." Or I love this one from Psalm 8:1. "Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name through all the earth." When they looked at the stars, this is what they saw. Do you think they'd be less or more impressed if they could see the Hubble space image? Or we understand, as they did not, the intricacies of the atom and what exists at a subatomic level, muons and quarks. We don't even understand these things, but you think about the atom and the fundamental building blocks of all matter, and then you think about the amazingly complex software code that we know of as DNA, that is the code behind every living thing on our planet. And if you could look at all of these things, would you stand, as we can do today, if the biblical authors could see that, would they be more in awe or less in awe? Would they feel more that God was amazing and magnificent, or would they discredit the idea that there was a God if they understood these things? And I think they would say even louder, "I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made," Psalm 139. I think about the ordering of creation, its rationality, its capacity to support life, its physical laws that can be expressed in complex mathematical formulas. And I think, is it really so, as the atheists would suggest, that all of this was self-generated? that out of nothing came everything, and that everything, developed on its own with no guiding, presence or power or mind, nothing that's helping to write the software code and building one thing upon another. I mean, I love the fact that the scientists help us understand the mechanics, but it seems to those of us who believe in God that there's someone behind that, an artist, a software engineer who's helped design all that we see and all that exists, no matter what the mechanics or the process were by which it happened. I think about the beauty of creation. We all feel this, whether you're an atheist or a believer, you look at a sunset and you just go, that is awesome and beautiful. We were there right after Christmas in California, and I couldn't stop taking pictures like, this is just so awesome and beautiful. Is it self-generated, or was there an artist behind that who created it to express in some way his glory and his love for us? Or I think about the snowflakes, and when you think about every little snowflake, we hardly ever even take the time to think about them, but the beauty that's found in them and the patterns in the universe. And all of these things lead some of us to believe in a rational mind, a beautiful artist, a loving God who's behind all that is. At Christmas time, we received a gift from one of our church members. Her name is Julie, and Julie and Hal, two wonderful people. Their son died just over a year ago, and at Christmas, they wanted to bless us. And so they brought us a white chocolate macadamia cheesecake. And this is a second. Ours, we ate half of it, and the other half is in the freezer. But I asked if Julie could make another one for the sermon. And these take about 2.5 or 3 hours to make, and they are a labor of love. And the chocolate shavings, they have a block of white chocolate, and they shave them, all of this. Right? I want you to imagine, if I showed you this white chocolate cheesecake, you say, where did you get that? I said, well, it just showed up. Well, but who made it? Well, nobody made it. It just showed up. Well, what do you mean it just showed up? Well, no, it just spontaneously generated in my office, and there it was. It wasn't there one day, and it was there the next day, and you'd think I was an idiot. You're like, no, that's not possible. That was made by somebody. Come on, quit horsing around. Who made that for you? And then you might want to know, well, what's in it? And the scientists can figure out what's in it. Right? They can tell you at an atomic level what is inside this cake, or at a chemical level, they can tell us, in the periodic table, what's in this cake. And of course, I don't really need to know at a chemical level, but I do know that there's white chocolate, and there's macadamia nuts, and there's flour and eggs and sugar and sour cream and cream cheese, and all of this deliciousness poured into this thing. But I don't even care what's in that unless I want to try to make it myself. What I want to know is, why would Julie make this? Why would she bring this to us? And so what I know is there's a Julie out there who made the cake for me and my family. And then what I recognize is she's trying to bless us, that this is an expression of love to bless us with this beautiful white chocolate cheesecake, right? And then I want to taste it and enjoy it. It's meant to be enjoyed, not just stared at. I want to actually enjoy and taste it. That's what the creator of this cheesecake intended for me. And in all of that, what I see is a picture of the God who is the creator of the universe. It was Sir Isaac Newton who was showing a model of the solar system as he understood it, and somebody once said to him, well, who made this? And he knew this person didn't believe, and Newton said, well, nobody made it. It just made itself. No. I mean, come on. This is a really cool model. It had the sun at the center, and the planets revolving around. He said, no. It just happened. Well, no. Somebody made it. Well, how is it that you can say that this model, which is a tiny, small, piece of mechanics, was not self-generated, but you look at the entire cosmos and you say it all came into being by itself, right? So the cheesecake is an expression of love. The creation is an expression of love this is a work of artistry. And I think about that and I think, the one who created our capacity to make these things, who created the entire universe, is an artist, is a creator, is a software designer. This is why I believe.